Dr. Andrea Lani is an Italian aerospace scientist with a Ph.D. in engineering science, known for his influential work with leading institutions such as NASA, Stanford, and NATO. With over 100 co authored scientific papers published in top aerospace engineering journals, he's a prominent contributor to the field and currently collaborates with the EU. Beyond his scientific achievements, Dr. Lani brings a lifelong interest in UAP and is a dedicated practitioner of meditation. Dr. Lani, thank you so much for speaking to me today. Highly looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks for having me here.
How would you define psychic abilities, and what do you believe are the main types of psychic phenomena?
Well, psychic abilities are some abilities that go beyond the five senses. And, you know, everybody potentially has these abilities, but most people have them somehow frozen due to possibly many reasons. Maybe there are some physical reasons, there are some emotional reasons, some spiritual reasons. So the challenge is actually in figuring out how to unlock them. In some people is, some people are born already with disability fully unlocked. Then some people are able to keep them in this state all their lives. Some people just shut them down at some point and then maybe retrieve these abilities later. uh, what kind of abilities? I mean, you know, what I could say is that you could summarize almost all of them into some sort of form of access to a non-local consciousness. Um, uh, so it's like in time, in space, eventually even in let's say outside the time and space dimension as we know them. So accessing extra dimensions, and some of the psychic abilities, for instance, are remote viewing, which is a form of clairvoyance, if you want. You are basically bypassing the limitation of time and space as you know them. That there is, the ability to hear sounds that are not there. I mean, for most people. So somehow our physical body is some sort of filter. It's a filter of the perception, and we were designed probably by, I don't know, the creator or the creators or whoever put us there, to stay sort of confined in a avatar that limit our potential, but yeah, in some way we can expand. Let's say we can retrieve, let's say, the full potential by doing some work. So it doesn't come for free typically, unless, as I said, in some cases somebody is born already with all the channels open, and then eventually during the life, because of the indoctrination, because of the fact that they force somehow on us a sort of belief system, then we limit the ability. So I think the key to unlock these abilities, first of all, is to believe that everything is possible. If you don't believe that, then you already put limitations on yourself. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm not somebody who really deeply research the different kind of psychic abilities, but in any case, for what I understand, it's like it's like a kind of access to, as I said, phenomena that are beyond time and space, so non-local in nature.
Yeah, very
Of
interesting.
course, everything, but also telepathy is some sort of form of non-local communication. So you are scanning, you are receiving messages, not through your ears, but through your mind, coming from wherever. They can come from the person that is sitting in front of you, or they can come from some cosmic being that is millions of light years away. This is what I believe.
All right. When did you first realize that you had psychic abilities, and how did you go about developing them further?
Well, I think the first time I realized that I had access some information beyond the senses was probably in this event that I also mentioned in the Ross interview, this premonition before the terrorist attack in Brussels. And so what happened is I was walking by, it was a Sunday. I was walking close to the central station in Brussels, and I met these two ladies who started talking to me in English, but I pick up the accent. I said, "You can talk Italian. I'm Italian too." And they basically asked me what was the most efficient way to reach Waterloo, because they wanted to go with their classrooms to their kids, let's say to school kids, to visit the Napoleon Museum. And I said, you're very lucky, because actually I work few kilometers from Waterloo, and actually I go to eat in Waterloo every single day for lunch. And so I said, okay, where are you staying? They said, okay, we have a hotel nearby. I said, okay, perfect. So you come to the station, you take the train to the next station, and then you take a bus, and he will get you there. And then they said, yeah, but we would like to try the metro. When they told me that, I had this visual in my mind. First of all, I had this thought of the terrorist attack in Paris, and then I had this visual of the metro, like kind of exploding or something. So, but it was like everything happened, in an instant. And what I did is, like, I tried to actually dissuade them to take the metro. I said, look, if you take the metro early in the morning, there are so many people, and you have all these kids, so you will have troubles to to fit into the different wagons, no? And so, well, at the end, what happened is, the day of the attack, which was 2 days later, mm, my mother was basically telling me, well, I saw an interview to an Italian guy who was on a metro, and he survived actually the bombing. And so I was looking for the same interview online, and what I found was actually a picture of these two ladies with their kids that had just came back to Italy, and they were basically saying that they actually took the metro, and they took it like 5 minutes before the one that actually exploded. So they were actually in the same metro, but 5 minutes, the one right before the one that was bombed. And yeah, so I don't know, it was a interesting synchronicity, a full circle kind of experience, and I had the feeling that it didn't happen by chance. So maybe I played a role in helping them to to survive, even though they didn't follow my advice. But maybe they said, okay, maybe we take the metro a little earlier, so we don't get stuck with all the all the people going to work or something. I will never know. So that was the first experience. And then uh, and then yeah, I mean, I would say I had to wait quite a few years, I would say, at least till 2018. Okay, so the bombing was in 2016, so actually around 2018 I started my sort of more spiritual journey. And this actually happened after a UFO encounter, or something that you could associate to that I actually didn't mention in Ross' interview. So what happened is, in 2018, I was stargazing, and well, because of the light pollution in Brussels, you cannot really see too many stars normally, even with the clear sky. So that day I would see maybe 20, 30 stars with the Orion belt in full display. And I had this thought, I would like to have a contact. Actually, I already did the same experiment a year before. So, like in March 2017, uh, I, I I had the same thought, and what happened is, few minutes later, I got this green light entering in my bedroom, and then when I look outside, there were two discs of green light just flying over my backyard, and too big to be a drone or something. And But anyway, so what happened is 1 year later, in February 2018, I did a similar experiment. So what happened is in the matter of 1 minute, the sky got completely covered by lights. It was an avalanche of lights coming from everywhere, and let's say thousands of lights. And then, I mean, I opened the window. I also touched myself because the experience felt really weird to be sure that I was like awake, you know. And when I opened the window, I actually saw let's say a purple fireball crossing the Orion belt. That to me felt like some sort of spirit, let's say mystical experience, like to see thousands of lights and like 1 minute before there were like 20 stars. And the day after I tried the same experiment, but nothing happened. So I was seeing, few dozens of stars, and that remained there for like half an hour. And but the experience gave me the thought that actually I somehow am able to get in contact. They hear me somehow. It doesn't work all the time because maybe they are not here just to respond to you all the time, but it does work. So there I realized about some sort of telepathic communication, and after that, synchronistically, after a few weeks, I actually broke my left ankle, and I got surgery, and I got stuck at home for 6 weeks. So during this period, I actually explored the connection between UFO encounters, spirituality, and with the intention of establishing communication in a more conscious way. And so that is actually was what motivated my interest in psychic abilities. Um, and I have to say, in the same period, I also bumped into a declassified document from the CIA called Mars Exploration, in which the remote viewer was asked to actually remote view Mars, I think 1 million years before or something, and it could actually interact with beings. It could see that there had been some sort of disaster, and some of the beings there, uh, let's say, we're trying to leave the planet to find another host planet, and the others remain behind. And while reading this, I don't know for what reason, at least at that time, I didn't know for what reason, I started crying. And it really touched me. And up to that moment, I was absolutely not familiar about remote viewing. I didn't know what remote viewing was. And then, of course, after that, I figured out about the Stargate project, Al Putov, and Russell Targ, Ingo Swann, and so on. And that got me really even more interested in this. And one key component that emerged was the role of meditation. And so I said, okay, maybe meditation is the way to try to establish this communication. But I have to say, I didn't do much work on that at the beginning. Actually, what interests me the most was the connection between, um, let's say, the connection that some people were suggesting between the UFO phenomenon and reincarnation. So some people were saying some of us come from somewhere else, and we keep on reincarnating, sometimes on Earth, sometimes somewhere else. And a key component for your development, also of psychic abilities, is to actually retrieve your memories. And so I figured out that there were techniques to do that. I figured out about, well, actually, thanks to some girls that I met that were also on a spiritual path of some kind. Um, I figured out the concept of Akashic records. So a sort of cosmic version of internet in which you can access information of the universal consciousness, and especially about your own soul journey. And so I started experimenting with this. Um, so I was given a book, and basically one day I just say, okay, well, actually, what happened is I met a girl that gave me this book, and told me, I'm trying to experiment with these Akashic records, but I'm doing it with a pendulum, using a dowsing pendulum. So always asking yes or no, or maybe you can have a board and have letters, and so you get the answers, but it's a very tedious process. She was spending hours doing that for other people, actually. And but then in the book actually that she gave me, they were explaining some meditation techniques using some visualization to basically get you to let's say retrieve these informations. And so months later, I met another girl who actually was experimenting with Akashic records, but through meditation. And she had just come out of the first session together with some psychic somewhere in Bulgaria. And she had a very powerful experience with powerful visuals and so on. So I said, okay, today is the day. I came home and I did my first experiment. So in the book, I think yeah, I don't remember actually the name of the author actually, but yeah. So in the book it was suggesting some visualization, but first of all it was explaining what was Akashic records and so on, and how you could use it. And then there was an exercise, like a visualization exercise. You imagine yourself walking in a, I don't know, in a long road with trees on both sides, and at the end of the road there is a temple which represents what holds the memory, all your memories, like of your consciousness. And at the entrance of the temple, you find the spirit guide that actually opens the door and let you in. And so in the visualization, let's say in the exercise, you had to get to that point and then formulate questions the most precise possible so that you would get the most precise answers possible. And so when I got to that point, the first question that I had was, what's the name of this spirit guide and where am I coming from? In my head, which was pretty empty, I got two words. One was Andronia and the other one was Sagittarius. What I did is I switched on the light and I went on Google and I put Andronia Sagittarius. And the first link that appeared was basically meet your spirit guides. It was a link for Californian psychics, whatever. But the first link was actually almost answering one of my questions, and that I found it very interesting. So I said, okay, but my main purpose is to figure out information about my previous lives. So I switch off the lights again. I actually went to the bathroom, and while brushing my teeth, I continued the exercise with eyes closed. And I said, okay, so I would like to know the profession, the name, the surname, and the date of death on my last life on Earth. And when I did that, I saw an image of war. Well, let's say I saw an image in which I could see two soldiers wearing like a sort of gray uniform and a helmet, helping somebody on the ground. And then I saw Charles and then Dempsey, sorry, the surname spelled letter by letter, and then 1941. And I did the same. So I switch on the light, go on Google, and I figured out that there was actually a colonel of the US Army called Charles Dempsey who died in 1941. So everything was matching, and there was a real individual that was matching all this information. And it's not like a historical person that I could have ever bumped into in some history book or nothing. So it's just a random, guy that lived in those period. And of course, that got me even more interested because I said, okay, well, this thing seems to give you some valuable information. And I let it sit for a while. So I didn't meditate. I was actually trying to. I got interested into getting out of your body, and I tried to do that, and it never worked. But then I was trying with binaural beats and other techniques of visualization, whatever. Nothing would work. I would always stay in my body. I would never see anything. Um, but then I kept my interest on reincarnation and Akashic records, so I actually did some sessions under hypnosis. And during this session, the first one was pretty hard. For the first half an hour, I couldn't visualize anything. Even if she was, let's say, the practitioner was trying to guide me to visualize something to get me a bit, in a deeper state, my mind was completely blank. And then at some point, I managed, and then I got information, and this information came in the form of visual combined that were very slowly forming in the mind. And sometimes I would see even a sort of video in which I was the main character. Some other time I would just see words or stuff. That was like pretty intense experience. It was a 2-hour session. I got interesting information. Some I didn't understand at the time. I understood later on. Yeah, and then I started having also crazy experiences with time. I remember one actually. So what happened is within the same week, I got two very puzzling time anomalies. The first time, it was a Monday. I put my alarm at 9:30. I woke up at some point. I went to the bathroom. I came back and I checked my phone. It was 9:23. I said, "Oh shit, my my alarm is gonna ring in like 7 minutes, but I'm still tired." So I go to sleep. I go to sleep. I wake up and I said, "Well, it must be so late." It was 9:23, and I check and it was 3 past 8. I was like, "How is it possible?" And then I started, rationalizing. I said, "Yeah, maybe I dreamt to wake up and to go to the bathroom and to check the time, or maybe when I checked the time, it was not 9:23. Maybe it was 7:23. Who knows?" I let it sit without an explanation. But then, 4 days later, on the Friday of the same week, this time the alarm was set at 9 o'clock. It rang. I took the phone. This deactivated the alarm, started reading my emails, went to the bathroom, and then I went downstairs in this kitchen. And so between the moment in which I deactivated the alarm and the moment in which I entered the kitchen, at least 30 to 40 minutes had passed. I entered the kitchen and then I checked the alarm the clock that you can see in the back, and it was saying 8:47. I was like, "How is it possible? Oh, I have to change this time." And then I checked my phone, 8:48. I was like, "How is it possible? I woke up at 9." And then I checked the alarm, and it was actually at 9 and deactivated. So if I could doubt what happened 4 days before, this time I had, let's say, I had an anomaly that was involving two different devices, that was totally unconnected one from the other. And yeah, so that was really something. I had other experiences of time anomalies. In one case, also connected to a UFO encounter. Um, I don't know. You want me? You have specific question, or you want me to just go freestyle?
Feel free to go freestyle. You just covered at least 10 episodes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the time anomaly with the UFO encounter. This happened in 2020. I went to London to meet a friend, and then on the way back, basically I was driving, so I had to go through Folkestone, take the train, and go in the Eurotunnel. Um, so what happened is already when I was driving, I was a bit stressed because I was late, and actually I ended up losing the train and have to take the next one. And I was hearing in my head. Consider that at that point I had already had very profound contact experiences since some months. So I knew I was in communication, and actually even in London, with this friend that I met, we did a Reiki session, and these beings that we were in contact talked through air non-stop for like 45 minutes during a Reiki session. But forget about that. So in my head, when I was driving and I was super stressed, I was hearing like, we are here, we are above you, or something like that. So I go to the Folkestone station. I'm in the parking. I'm chatting with my friend, who at the same time was at the airport, ready to go to Miami, and at 22:24, I leave the parking and I send a message. I leave the parking and start driving towards the train. And when I'm driving, we were constantly stopping because there was a huge queue to board the train. And I look on my left and I see this object, which was, I would say, bigger than my car, probably around 10 meters of length, and it was not very high in the sky. At least from my perspective, it could have been maybe 30 feet, 30, 50 meters, something like that. Um, and it was one side, the side of the object was completely covered by lights of four colors, like red, yellow, blue, and green. And then the lights sort of disappear and morphed into some sort of what I could describe a plasma a plasma blob, let's say, I don't call it, yeah, sort of plasma jet or something, that completely covered the object and then dissipated into one single light that was still blinking. At that time, I took the phone and I started recording and took pictures. I took videos. It was difficult because I was driving and I had to use for the most one hand. So, but anyway, and then I observed the object for a while. Finally, we board the train. The first thing that I do, I send the audio recording to my friend saying, I think I saw a UFO. And then things get interesting because then I look at the conversation, and the time of my message is 22:25, while the previous one was at 22:24. So it looks like only 1 minute passed between me being in the parking lot and me being on the train, while actually I had driven for uh, close to 10 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, 8 minutes, but nothing less than that. And then the other thing that was interesting is that while I was driving, my friend sent me a message, and in her message, used the emoji of a UFO, which was kind of not connected to the conversation that we were having. And so a synchronicity, in this already weird situation. And then, so why do I speak about time anomaly? As I said, I drove for 10 minutes, but if you look at the WhatsApp chat, it looks like it was just 1 minute. And then if I look at the photo app, where I took photos for about 4 minutes. So there you can see the difference between the timestamp of the first picture and the last one is like 4 minutes. So there was an inconsistency on the same phone between the timing on the phone, on the WhatsApp and on the photo app. So that was interesting. Um, yeah. So another interesting experience, and this happened a little before that. So this was in August 2020. So, well, maybe I go a little backward because to just tell you how I actually ended up making contact, because that was the purpose in first place. So I did this, hypnosis sessions. Then I practiced a little bit meditation on and off, never really achieving anything. So I could, let's say, I had the ability to close my eyes and immediately get rid of all the thoughts. I could stay in this state for 1 hour, but I would get no visual whatsoever. The only visual that I could get would be some little white light in the periphery of my vision, and consider that I was always meditating with completely in complete darkness. No, yeah, go ahead.
How did you go about meditating? What technique did you use?
Mm, well, what I did is I tried to look around a bit for let's say tricks to quiet your mind. But at the end of the day, I really never need to use this because I realized that as soon as I close my eyes, I can basically shut down my thoughts instantaneously. But some of the techniques that I can recommend, it's, for instance, if you can imagine to watch your thoughts passing by from I don't know, from the side of a river, and or you can imagine to pack your thoughts into clouds and then you dissipate these clouds, or you can focus on uh, a part of your body, like you can focus on the pinky, or you can focus on your heart, or in the middle of your forehead. This I did a few times because there is this let's say this trend in trying, in wanting to open your third eye and stuff. So some suggest focus your attention on the center of your forehead, for instance. So I tried all of this, but at the end of the day, I mean, I I had this ability of basically quiet my mind, which is something that a lot of people don't have. um, and yeah, so up to that point, the only visual that I had were either the first experiment that I described, in which I accessed this memory of a past life, and then during hypnosis I had visuals, a lot of visuals. And then I also started doing some sessions, initially group sessions. I also try a few individual one with a girl that I met here in Brussels. She's actually a chemist, so like trained in science, but she got interested into shamanic practices, into Reiki and stuff. So she trained and she basically made a career in that. So she was organizing these group sessions in person in Brussels, in which she would play some shamanic music, with either with drumming or with singing bowls. And from the very first session, I had pretty powerful experiences. So I remember the first time we did that. It was almost as the way she was playing. Let's say the frequency that she was playing on her drums were synchronized with my chakras. So I had a little knowledge about chakras, very very basic, so the energy centers in your body. But I immediately realized that, I mean, she was basically playing maybe 10 times the same note, and then there was my, I don't know what you would say, the third eye that was like pulsating, and I was actually seeing a purple light coming from the side and going towards the middle of my forehead. And he did it all the times that she would, for each single note that she played, I saw the same. And then she changed note on her drum, and I felt this sensation in my throat, almost like choking. And I realized that every time she was playing, I was getting this sensation, and then it moved to the heart and so on. So it was very interesting. For the first experience, it was the first time that I felt some physical effect, like, some energy flowing or stuff. And then there were sessions in which I maybe felt just a headache, and I was very disappointed. I was always hoping for visuals, but no visuals would come. And then there was one session, which I think was in December or November, no, November 2019. Um, this was a game changer for me, because basically during 1 hour of session, I felt almost nothing. But when she finished playing any music, I suddenly felt a very intense vertigo. I felt like my body was spinning, a very intense energy throughout my body. My eyelids started fluttering uncontrollably, and also my head was lifted up a little bit, and I couldn't control it. I mean, I could have said, "Okay, stop it," and I could have opened my eyes, but I wanted to see how far it would go, and it went. It kept on going for minutes and minutes. She even came to touch my heart, and it kept on going. It didn't stop. And then, actually, I kept on shivering for like 3 or 4 hours after the session. So that was really something unexpected. And so later on, and now we're getting into the interesting part, because um, between January 2020 and then, let's say, April, May 2020, I had the most powerful experiences. Um, it started with another past life regression under hypnosis with the method of Dolores Cannon, so QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. During this session, uh, not only I saw some past lives, but I saw past lives that look like past lives elsewhere, not on Earth. In particular, I saw myself at some point reflected on a pond, and I was looking like a white kind of humanoid with a round head, round eyes, almost like a piggy nose, and very long neck, extremely long neck, and very very skinny. Um, And then in another life, I saw myself like with very long hair, beard, almost like a Jesus-like figure, wearing a robe, suspended in the air inside a sort of cathedral that appeared made of crystal. Like if I would look around, it was being inside. Instead of walls, I would see crystals, and there was some sort of individual, or let's say spirit. I don't know what it was, half body, that was I felt he was judging me or reviewing me, and there was no floor. So if I would look down, there was nothing under my feet, and I felt that this was actually in a specific place in the Pleiades star system. Anyway, so this was an interesting experience. Then I basically did a 21-day meditation challenge with some new friends, some that I didn't know. It was a group, a chat group on WhatsApp, and this was with the method of Deepak Chopra. It was actually a challenge proposed by Deepak Chopra, and so this was the first time that I was trying to meditate consistently every single day, at least for 5-8 minutes, according to what was suggested in the challenge. And it was hard. It was hard to do that. I was in San Francisco actually. It was around the period of my birthday, and but there are nice places to. There is the pier. You can watch the. So that was also motivating me a little bit to do some effort. And yeah, it was hard to finish the 21 days also because it was like meditation plus some you have to write something, some thoughts or some whatever. So it was some effort. I was happy I finished. After that, I throw a party for my birthday, and I met a few spiritual people that were actually in this chat group that I never met before. In particular, there was this middle-aged Belgian woman that I met for the first time, and she told me, I told her a little bit of experiences that I had, and I mean, I didn't describe all of them to you. I don't have time, but and she said, well, I think somebody like you would benefit from having an initiation to Shaktipat. And she basically told me that she spent a lot of time in India. She got initiated by a Swami, they call gurus, in this technique called Shaktipat. And we arranged for a meeting in which basically I would see this Swami via the phone, and then we would close the conversation, freestyle meditation, and that would be the initiation. The initiation. So the Swami would do something on his end, but remotely, and I don't know, you know. So I said, okay, interesting, let's do it. Before actually meeting her for this, again in the same week, on the Monday I had an appointment to do something, and on the Friday I had to do this initiation. So on the Monday I was suggested by another friend that I had, who was also into shamanic practices. She's actually working for the European Commission. She does economy related stuff, but she's also into Reiki, pranic healing, shamanic healing, and she said, okay.
For people that don't know, what is Reiki?
Well, it's an energy healing practice in which they either use their hands or they use symbols, and yeah, so they sort of encode some energy or some, I don't know, some uh, yeah, energy through symbols actually. But I'm not a Reiki, I wasn't initiated in Reiki or something. I just had some session with other people, but yeah, so there are different, also these different versions with started by different people, and um, so this girl, as I said, was initiated in all of this, but she said, there is a friend of mine who's coming from Romania, and she's doing family constellation sessions. So in these family constellations, um, what they do is they try to resolve some trauma, ancestral kind of trauma, from the side of your parent. I mean, both your parents, like. And I was actually suggested by the other lady, the one that I mentioned, the chemist, to actually do a session like that, just few weeks before, because there was something that was blocking me from being able to get out of my body, and a session like that could have helped me. And synchronistically, without any communication between these two people, I got invited the week after to a session of this kind. I said, okay, I take the chance. So during this session, well, as soon as I get to the place to meet this lady, this Romanian lady, she told me, well, you are different. I can see that there is some cosmic energy around you. And she said, I see some Pleiadian energy, I see some Orion energy, and it's interesting because I got the same information from other people before, and so it was like confirmation for me. But then she does the session, and it was almost like a psychology kind of game in which you associate some piece of tissue or something with two different people. You put in different places, and then you sit on it, and you try to associate thoughts to that. I mean, I don't know. I don't even remember. It was a long session. But after this session, at some point, she looks at me and she said, "Do you want to know what is your mission in life?" And I was like, that was not the purpose of the session, right? I said, yeah, why are you asking? She said, I see your spirit guides aligned behind you, and they asked me to ask you. I said, okay, yeah, tell me. Now, take it with a grain of salt. It's not my words, it's her words. What she said is you are a God's messenger. I said, okay. And then she said, and the other thing that they told me is uh, to basically ask you to ask for the tools to accomplish your mission. I said, how does it work? How should I do it? You just set the intention. Okay. So I said, okay, if you hear me, give me the tools. Consider up to that point, I was obsessed with the idea of opening my psychic abilities, having visual, having, telepathic communication, and not much happened. I mean, I was under hypnosis, I would get information, and so she said, within few days, things will change massively for you. This was on a Monday. On a Friday, I go to this Shaktipat initiation. And so we sit in a circle and we start meditating. There was this Belgian woman plus two friends. So one friend, a girl, was actually singing all the time. The other guy was playing shamanic drumming. This friend was just like sitting on the sofa, and as soon as we start meditating, she got into to some sort of trance state, and she started talking. I could barely hear what she was saying, but she was talking, and I just closed my eyes. I was sitting on the floor, and as soon as I close my eyes, I see a face. And sorry, I see a individual which looked like a Jesus kind, long hair, beard, white robe, and dressed, and in a lotus pose, like meditating with a blue aura all around. And then I saw him walking towards me next to another entity, which didn't look human, looked actually like very extraterrestrial with a triangular face, flat. He was looking almost like a dragon, but with a flat face, and with also like something sticking out from his head. Also wearing a robe, and the robe was like pink, purple. And I asked in my head, "Who are you?" And I see a writing appearing, Metatron. Now, up to that point, the only time I heard about Metatron was because of the Metatron elevator, which is a technique that is used, and I tried to use and it didn't work, to actually get out of your body. But I didn't know who Metatron was, except for maybe an archangel or something. But actually, Metatron is mentioned in the book of Enoch, which is a forbidden book of the Bible that is kept in the Coptic tradition in Ethiopia. Funnily enough, my father was born in Ethiopia, so actually, technically, I'm a fourth Ethiopian. But I never heard about this story of Enoch or whatever. This is all information that I got after, after I researched this Metatron. Who the hell was this? But the interesting thing is that, Archangel, so Enoch in this book at some point ascended to some I don't know, to heaven or whatever, and it became an archangel, and they call him Metatron. So archangel, when you think about an archangel, you think about some sort of humanoid with wings. You are indoctrinated to think that angels have wings, but what I was seeing was an extraterrestrial entity or something that looked non-human. um, anyway, so I had these visuals, and the visuals continued for the whole meditation. So the first thing to notice is the first time that I meditated for like 30, 45 minutes, and I had visual all the time. And then after that, my friend told me, you know, I also had a visual, and she described the same being, so the same human looking like a Jesus, but dressed in red, in purple. And she said, I saw this individual coming behind your back and putting a hand on your shoulder and say, this is my worker. So this is interesting. Think about what, 4 days before, I had this woman that I met for the first time. She told me, you are some sort of messenger. And then 4 days later, I have this woman that tells me that sees somebody that looks like a Jesus putting the hand on my shoulder and say, you are is my worker. And yeah, I don't know. At that point, I was like, whoa, it's all getting interesting. I don't understand the picture, but it's interesting. And then a few days later, I I had another session. This time it was already locked down, so we couldn't meet anybody. And so this Turkish lady, the chemist, told me, I want to give you a free session for your birthday, and we arranged for a specific date, and it was remote. So she pre-recorded some drumming, some shamanic drumming. She uploaded on YouTube. I was on my bed playing the video from YouTube, and she was at her place doing remotely something like rebalancing my chakras or whatever. I think that every time that I had the chance to try something new, I was always taking the chance, because I'm really in exploration mode. And okay, so I start playing the music, and for the first 5 minutes, I feel absolutely nothing. And then I feel a tingling starting at the tip of my fingers, and in a matter of a few seconds, both my arms get paralyzed up to the shoulders. And then I feel again this spinning sensation that described before. My head lift up a little bit, and also my eyelids start flickering or fluttering uncontrollably. And this time, I also have visuals. I see the face of this individual that look like a Jesus. I see a portal of some kind, a dark portal opening, and around this portal, I see entities looking like the one that I saw during the QHHT session. Long neck, round face, completely white. Then they disappear, and then I see a line of entities that I couldn't distinguish. I could only see the colors. I could not distinguish the shape. There were like brown, white, black, blue, green, and then the only one that I recognized was a mantis, an insectoid, a mantis being that actually with whom I had contacts before. And I knew that he was one of my spirit guides. So I said, okay, these are my spirit guides. And so I had this very powerful experience. I got messages that I don't remember honestly. And when the music stopped, my arms went back to normal. And then I talked to my friend and said, "Look, I had really an extraordinary experience. I never had anything like that." You want to ask something?
You mentioned previously that through meditation, you experience synchronicities, information retrieval, out of body experiences, remote viewing.
Never managed with the out of body. I tried, but I
Okay.
never managed.
All right. Um, anomalies and meeting entities as well. You also mentioned the Stargate protocols and the Gateway process and the Monroe Institute. Um, is there one particular meditation technique that stands out, or are there several different techniques that are required in order to gain those experiences?
Well, one thing that I want to clarify, which was not well clarified in the interview with Ross, is that I never experimented with the gateway protocols or anything like that. My connection to the Stargate project is that it inspired me to look into psychic abilities. But I never look at the protocols that they use. I only tried maybe recently one pre-recorded meditation from the Monroe Institute. So what I would suggest is for people, because in my case, my process was a bit, I mean, a lot of trial and error for consistently for years basically, and also trying completely different things like sound sessions or hypnosis or whatever. So I think everything contributed somehow at some point to just open something for me. But if somebody wants to start from scratch, I would recommend maybe really to dig into this gateway experience and the protocols, because yeah, they did this kind of experiments and research for decades, and yeah, I know people who had a lot of good outcome with that. So yeah, and another thing that I could recommend is to try a session with either with shamanic drumming or with singing bowls. I especially liked the high pitch sounds. I think that can help to have more, I don't know, profound experiences. I don't know, it worked for me for sure. And also there are some session like with gongs, even gong healings or whatever. I try one of that too. Didn't have too much experience. I mean, too much effects, except for feeling extremely cold. So whenever you feel cold or you feel energy flowing somewhere or a vibration, means that somehow there is something happening. There is some energetic stimulation, so to speak. And yeah, and never. Another recommendation is never. I mean, don't expect something to just open up from one day to another without making much effort. Somehow, for what I understand, you have to really change at some level. Even in my case, for instance, one thing that boosted my experience was to change the diet. So I became progressively, I would say, almost completely vegan. And it's like you make your body lighter, and and by making your body, let's say, energetically lighter, you are able to let this higher energy flow and have bigger experiences. So, and I'm not the only one. I know other people who let's say, had more powerful experiences once they changed the diet and they went towards vegetarian or vegan.
Yeah, there is a lot of mentioning of different rituals that scientists pursue in order to receive downloads, and some of them include receiving uh, enough amounts of vitamin D, so sunlight, drinking enough water, staying hydrated, eating vegan. So there seem to be certain physical things that one can do in addition to adding um, some spiritual aspects as well. So, do you have any more suggestions on what one could look out for or what one could implement in order to increase the chances of being successful at this?
Well, first of all, you have to stay curious, and also try to avoid to be in some sort of neediness state, because whatever, if you establish connection, uh, it's sort of granted. It's not, it's granted from somebody that has a higher point of view than the one that you have. So if you have some of these experiences, the first reaction is to be grateful. The more gratitude you have, the more you will attract this kind of experiences. I think another suggestion is, when you try to have any kind of connection, try to do it in a moment in which you are in a positive state of mind, both emotionally and physically, because otherwise your experience could be not a positive one. So if you are in pain, or depressed or angry against somebody, and then you go into meditation, you may connect to some entities or energies that are not really positive, because it's like, we attract something that is in line with what we are in that moment. So we are like antennas that constantly broadcast and receive messages, and if we broadcast fear or rage or depression, it's hard that you will attract somebody that will come and heal you, you know. So it can happen. It can happen that you are in the lowest point of your life, and you sort of ask for some help, and something happens. But it's better to try to be in a positive state, and also open. Like being fearful for sure blocks certain kind of experiences. If you want to contact extra, or let's say cosmic or spiritual entities, and you are afraid of what can happen, then you will block the experience to some extent. So without mentioning name, for instance, I suggested a friend who is an astronomer, um, to do one of my meditations pre-recorded, that was also tested with the EEG and the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And well, the first time, she's not a meditator. She was like, didn't know exactly what to do, no? And so she didn't have an experience. The second time, and then I told her, you don't have to do anything. You just close your eyes and just try to stay relaxed and listen to the music. The second time, she basically, and she was meditating in complete darkness. This is what I suggest. Try to meditate in complete darkness, or if you are outside, put blinders, or let's say sunglasses or something. Is to sort of remove alibi. If you see lights suddenly popping up, it's not something that can come from outside if you are completely, in darkness. And that's what happened to her. She saw two orbs of blue light that came towards her, and she got scared. She felt sort of like, she said she felt that they were sentient somehow, and they were coming to her, and she got scared. She opened her eyes, and then she tried again the day after. She had a similar experience again. She panicked, and she said, okay, I understand there is something happening, but it's too much for me now. um, so yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that you have to consider when you engage in this kind of exploration, I think.
Is there a worldview or philosophy that best aligns with your understanding of reality?
Mm, honestly, no, I cannot really relate to a specific philosophy or whatever. I mean, I try to, let's say, get my own point of view, so to speak. Um, yeah, so that's what I could say.
Are there any thinkers, philosophers, or scientists whose views resonate with your own on these subjects?
Let's say that there are like hypnotherapists, like Michael Newton, Brian Weiss, or Dolores Cannon. So these are the people that according to me, came close to explain what the kind of reality that I'm interacting with. Um, yeah. So, and another person that I really admire, it's I mean, like Harold Puthoff. Um, I wish he could tell everything that he knows, and I am pretty sure he knows much, way more than what he is allowed to speak about. I know a little bit Jeffrey Kripal. I like the fact that he's very open. Also Diana Pasulka. I like what she's doing, trying to explore a bit the connection between religion and UAPs, which is, according to me, absolutely a key point. And then whoever is talking about ancient astronauts is also, I think, spot on, because we are dealing with entities that have been here for a long time, probably from the beginning of humanity, and even the gods of the different religions are probably not really gods, maybe cosmic in nature, or just spiritual, interdimensional entities. It's hard to say. Then the other thing is, yeah, when you connect with these entities, and I did thousands of meditations up to now, and I've seen really like probably thousands of entities, but you never know if the way they present themselves to you is really the way they are, or it's just a projection to make you more comfortable in this interaction. um, I believe in some cases they really change, they really project an image of themselves which is very far from what they are, just to make you feel comfortable. Because I don't know, if you would see somebody look like a demon in your own understanding of what a demon is, you would not interact, or you would be scared. And maybe even if they look like a demon, maybe they are positive entities. The other thing is, how do you discern if you are connected to a positive or a negative entity? Um, for my understanding, or for my experience, when you connect to a negative one, you typically feel, uh, let's say, you feel like negative sensations. You feel pain, physical pain. You feel worse after the interaction than you felt before. And so, or another thing that I believe negative entities do is they play on your ego, and they also play on, let's say, your self-defense mechanism or survival instinct. So if in this interaction you feel you are resonating to that kind of interaction, then probably you are not interacting with a good person, let's say, or good entity or whatever. um, yeah, so
Yeah, you mentioned entities quite a lot. What do you think these entities are, and what do you believe their purpose or motives might be?
well, I think there is a wide range of entities out there. Some are probably like, in ancient traditions they speak about dragons, they speak about fairies, they speak about elves, uh, they speak about angels, demons, and then you have all the potential extraterrestrials. Who knows, maybe some of the angels or all of the angels are actually extraterrestrials. Are they extraterrestrial, or are they coming from another universe, or or from another dimension, or both? For us it's difficult at the moment, because all this is not, we cannot really have a definitive answer. We can only theorize. Even if, let's say that you interact with an entity, and then this entity tell you, I'm a Pleiadian, no? Then you say, okay, so it's from some planet in the Pleiad star system, but you have no way to verify. It's just like a trust relation. You either believe it or you don't. Or maybe you have such advanced out of body experience capabilities that you can go there, see what is around, and then later on you find a way of verifying this information. So we miss the tools to be able to verify this kind of thing. So we can only put some theories on the table, and eventually, convey the messages that we get without being sure if they are true or not. So yeah, so I guess we have the whole range of entities that have been here all the time, that maybe are really like sharing the room with us, but we cannot see them. But maybe we could see them if we could check another frequential range beyond the visible. Or there are other entities that are coming from other universe, or interdimensional or whatever. So I believe we are really dealing with a lot of different beings and phenomena, and we can try to categorize, just for because our mind needs some sort of structure, needs to put label, to attach label to things in order to for us to make sense of things. But yeah, I don't know, we cannot have definitive answers. And then, yeah, there are also entities like that are maybe like ascended masters, or something like a Buddha or a Jesus or whatever. It could be that they never left; they are here somewhere in some form, and people have this kind of experiences. They see Jesus or Buddha or some of these Indian gurus even popping up in their kitchen with open eyes. I know some people who had experiences like that. I don't know. I never had it, but I believe them. So yeah, I don't understand how it actually works, but it seems to happen sometimes. So
Yeah, there are a lot of claims about physical craft being hidden somewhere by someone. How do you reconcile the spiritual aspects of what we talked about so far and the nuts and bolts craft?
Yeah, well, if there are extraterrestrials, it's very possible that they travel using some sort of technology, and it's also possible, as many have said, potentially also some whistleblowers that work in some of these programs, that in order to drive some of these crafts, you actually have to use these psychic abilities and these spiritual abilities. And some say even that some of these crafts may be biological or alive by themselves. And I tend to believe that it's possible. It's not been demonstrated, but it's possible. And yeah, I'm more and more excited to know, to see how all this disclosure project will evolve, and if we really get to have a definitive proof of this kind of thing. But I'm sure that there are physical crafts, and I see, definitely I saw a couple of them that really look very physical, and other look a bit more orb-like. Actually, I have to share one thing which is interesting. The last UFO that I saw was actually at the same moment in which Trump was being shot. So I was basically stargazing with a friend. It was already night here, and we wanted to. We said, okay, let's try to see if we can call them in. And so we stayed there for about half an hour. And sometimes, you see some light high in the sky. Maybe it seems to pop up out of nowhere, and then it does something. But it could always be a satellite. When it's so high in the sky, you never know. And so we saw something, but we weren't really sure what we were looking at. And then she lay on the floor to have a different perspective. And I kept on staying there at the window with my head out. And suddenly I see a white orb, quite big. I mean, the size of the sphere was looking like bigger than the size of the moon. So, but it was lower in altitude. I believe it was just a little higher than my house. It came from a corner, and it had some sort of tail which was split in two, also white, and it came in front of me and it disappeared. And then I told my friend, and my friend couldn't see it because she was lying. From her perspective, she couldn't see it. And then what happened is, we checked the phone, and there were messages coming from another friend in Florida saying they just tried to assassinate Trump. And the fact that I had this experience in a moment in which he was spared, I mean, his life was spared for like a split second. It's interesting. It's almost like some people talk about some sort of divine intervention. I don't want to enter into politics, but it could be that somebody intervened to avoid him to die for whatever reason. It would have created a lot of instability, to the least. And maybe this was some sort of confirmation for me, or whatever, that there was some intervention of some kind. From what source, I don't know, but it was interesting.
Yeah. There are also some claims about spiritual warfare, if you're familiar with that term. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally believe that. I think that we are dealing with entities with different agendas. So some are definitely like self-serving, deceiving humanity, and maybe even interacting behind the curtains to steer the course of history in a way that favors them. And I believe they've been around for a long time, and they've created all these power structures that are maybe more oppressing people than letting people exploit their full potential. And then there are the good ones who, let's say, stick to a principle of non-intervention and stick to a principle of respecting your free will. And so what they do in order to intervene is they give you suggestion, they give you synchronicities, they maybe give you messages or something during your dreams. They inspire you, for instance, to I don't know, to develop some new technology or to change something in your life. So they give you some breadcrumbs, as I call them, but it's up to you to figure out what this breadcrumb mean, and then eventually to decide to follow and see a pattern. So but yeah, so, and I'm pretty sure that humanity is somehow involved into this war, which let's say is behind the curtain. And the more you get into these psychic abilities and these contacts and whatever, the more you realize that you are actually part of the game. And so it's up to you then to decide on which side to be. If you are more on the materialistic side, then you will tend to go towards let's say the negative agenda. If you are more into the spiritual, into this let's say the self exploration, or the try to discover your human potential, I think you gravitate more towards the benevolent forces, so to speak. But yeah, so I think fundamentally there has been some sort of suppression of the human potential, and this has been done on purpose in order to exploit humans. Um, but in this kind of self-exploration, spiritual exploration, then you can discover who you really are, your actual potential, and then you change the game somehow. And we are in this phase. I believe we are in this phase in which the truth somehow are coming to the surface. People are realizing there has been some sort of intervention, some sort of deception that was not serving humanity. And with some work, because nothing comes for free, you can actually try to get more insights into this, become a better person, explore your possibilities, and figure out that everybody's talking about blending AI, or let's say machines with humans uh, to create a superhuman, but without even understanding that we are already superhuman. It's just that we are exploiting very little potential of what we actually could. And once you realize that, yeah, if you have the patience to explore a little bit, then there is a lot of fun. You can actually see tangible effects in this exploration, like I think I saw. um,
Beautifully put. Well, Andrea Lani, thank you so much for taking your time speaking to me.
yeah, it was a pleasure.